Hey everybody, a couple months back it seems like every tech YouTuber and gaming YouTuber under the sun discovered this capture card right here, and this thing was running for about 15 bucks at that time. Everybody kind of jumped on it, did reviews, and myself included in that. You can see that right here. But in the meantime, the price on this, because of all of the overwhelming, almost unanimous agreement that this is such a steal at $15, these things have like skyrocketed in sales, and currently they're up to over, most of them are around 25. Some of them have even doubled in price and gotten up over $30 in price. So I recently found another alternative to this, and I bought it for 11 bucks, and I want to see if it's any good. And really, you can tell me because you're looking at the capture of that card right now. This is my Panasonic Lumix G7. I'm feeding out through the HDMI port and capturing into that card right now, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it sounds like. So now, as far as how this capture card that I paid 11 bucks for holds up against this capture card that I paid 15 bucks for 2 months ago, and now it's skyrocketed in price and going for over 30, we're going to compare the two, do a couple bits of comparison testing, and see how one stacks up against the other. And based on their specs, I have a sneaking suspicion that internally they're the same card. I couldn't find much information on this card, but I'm going to throw up the specs from the Amazon seller page right here for a few seconds. Be sure to pause here if you'd like to read the full tech specs. If you want to buy one of these for yourself, there's going to be a link in the description below, and buying through that link will help this channel out. But based on those numbers, this card is very similar to the generic capture card that I reviewed a few months back. And this is that card. And so you can see the approximate size for comparison. Here's a side-by-side with a wireless mouse. The new device ships in a very nondescript, generic packaging. The card itself feels ruggedly built, with a tough aluminum and plastic case. As I mentioned before, the built-in pigtail is a welcome feature. Here I've plugged in the HDMI output of my main camera, and I was a bit worried that the capture card didn't pick up the camera feed right away. It was just giving me these weird black and green bars. For a few minutes I messed around with the card settings in OBS, which was actually unnecessary. All I needed to do was power cycle the camera, and I was easily up and running. Within Windows, I looked at the advanced audio format in the microphone settings for the card, and these are exactly the same as the other generic capture card that I reviewed. Alright, so I've got both camera cards fed into OBS Studio now, and the good news is that both of these cards can be fed in at the same time. I wasn't sure if that was going to work or not, so I've got my main camera here, my Panasonic, fed into the new capture card, the one with the pigtail, and I've got a GoPro fed into the old card here. So I'm going to switch over. So as we can see, it's capturing both cameras, both sources, and now I know that this picture looks a lot rougher than this one right here, but that really has more to do with this being a GoPro and that being an actual full-scale mirrorless camera, and not so much to do with the quality of the capture cards. If I were to switch these around, I'm sure that the picture would look about the same. So yeah, this is basically a test of both of those cards being fed into OBS at the same time, and it passes that test. The great thing about this is if you wanted to do a multicam setup for a live stream, say something like a church or even your gaming live stream, something like that, and you wanted to put a camera a camera over here and one up here and one looking on, these cards are not very expensive, and if you were to grab some off-the-shelf camcorders or GoPros and you wanted to just have a bunch of multicams in your camera setup, this is a pretty affordable way to do it. And I don't think you really need a cam link for every I don't think you really need an Elgato cam link for every camera that you're going to feed into your stream. So again, this is both cards going into OBS at the same time, capturing from different sources and switching between the two. You're just a click away. So that is awesome. Here's a quick test showing that the capture card and camera setup does indeed work with Zoom. And here's a quick test showing that Skype also picks up the USB capture card as a webcam device. And here's some sample footage being captured from a Raspberry Pi 4. And here I'm capturing footage of the Raspberry Pi with my old card while I pipe in footage to VLC to the Raspberry Pi with the new card. Admittedly, it doesn't look great. And here's confirmation that the card actually does work with Linux, but not very well. I didn't do any real extensive testing in Linux, just this quick confirmation, where we can see that the frame rate is extremely wonky, and the video is prone to freezing. I couldn't get the card to pick up audio in Linux at all. Also, according to the spec sheet, this device does work with Mac, but I don't own a Mac to do any testing in that neighborhood, so I won't be able to confirm that. Here's some footage being captured from the Xbox 360, and bear with me, I'm terrible at video games. But as you can see here, they're practically the same size, the difference being this pigtail. I want to tear them open and see if they're similar on the inside because their performance is almost identical. So taking apart the old capture card is pretty easy. Remove 2 small Phillips head screws and it comes right apart. This newer one, well, it looks like if I just get in here with this little pry tool, it should come apart fairly easily. Or not. Come on. You know, I'm doing this so no one else has to. It would be awesome if I could guilt you into hitting that thumbs up button down there. Okay, it's time to bust out the heavy artillery. Alright, so this thing is built pretty tough. It's got these plastic clips that press into the aluminum casing, and once it's put together, it's not made to ever be taken apart again. And as you can see here, I was wrong about the cards being the same on the inside. They're clearly laid out differently. I could have sworn that this newer card was the same thing, just with a USB pigtail soldered in. Oh well, now we all know, and just like He-Man says, knowing is half the battle. And look at that, even after me going full Captain Destructo on this thing, it still works. What a tough little piece of equipment. Alright everybody, that's it for my review of the $11 capture card, and I think for $11, for what I use this thing for, that's a pretty good deal. Now of course the Elgato Cam Link does give you more options. You've got some more frame rate options, and if you get the 4K version, of course you can capture in 4K. My camera can't output through the HDMI port in 4K, so the Cam Link for me, I cannot justify that cost for a little bit extra frame rate. But if you need the Cam Link for what you do, let me know in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear what you're doing and what your workflow is. With everything winding down, I want to take a minute to thank all of my supporters on Patreon. There's going to be a link in the description below if you want to help out. Donations to help the show out are appreciated, but never expected. If you'd like to help my channel grow, do all of the YouTube stuff down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Your time is valuable, and I appreciate that you spent it watching this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.